My name is Oort. I will be speaking in the VCOP 20 in end of January. And the title of my talk will be on Merchants of Doubt. That's actually a book which was written several years ago, but that was about first about the people who try to decide, some good scientists, that they try to avoid changing to more socialistic system. They were a more capitalistic system. They supported that, and so many of them were from the Soviet Union, so they knew what the communists. It doesn't work that well either, but they started to create doubt that what happened for a long time for the question of smoking and lung cancer. So they kept science, they knew all the sciences, and but they wanted to avoid to keep the capitalistic system going, so that the industry would get would be okay, would survive, but not that human health didn't help at all. The same thing has been happening with climate change, even much worse, because that has going on for 40 or 50 years. So we'll be talking more about what happened actually during those 40 years. The first time they say, oh, climate change is not happening. There's nothing. There's no warming. And then when that became obvious that there was warming, they said, okay, but there's nothing to do with what we are doing. So then that more obvious that we are affecting it already. Then they start to change and say, okay, but this has something happened before. In original times, there would be warming and cooling and warming all the time in the climate since the last thousands of years or millions of years. But now we have found out recently also that that hasn't happened, that now the warming is going on now. It's bigger than anything which has happened in the past million years. So it's an emergency. So it's very crucial that we have to follow more Shailash approach and going more vegan at the individual level. That's the only way we have to change society. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Rebecca Allen, and I'm so pleased to be here with climatologist Dr. Abraham Oort. He's an internationally respected meteorologist. He's co-authored a highly esteemed book called The Physics of Climate. He's been a professor, written many articles, worked in the Geophysical Fluid Dynamic Laboratory of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And he will be speaking at the Vegan Convergence of the Peoples in January 25th, so please join us. Dr. Oort, welcome. The Million Vegan Grandmothers have to ask how you started off. Did your parents encourage education? How did you begin this wonderful long career?
Thank you, BJ. Very nice to speak here with you. It started actually pretty early. I was in a family which is, my father was a well-known astronomer, so I had to work very hard to keep track of what was going on there. It was about the first 20 years. So I got my education in Leiden University in the Netherlands. And after that, I went into physics, theoretical physics. I wasn't a very good student, but I liked the general structure of physics. And but later on, I went into meteorology because interested in was in the Air Force for 2 years, and then learned to draw weather maps and became sort of more interesting. And my main education came actually when I go to MIT for 2 years. There was uh, meteorology was sort of starting out. In physics, they thought meteorology wasn't very good. It was sort of like a low grade type of physics. And everything was already known, fluid dynamics, it was all very well known, so nothing very exciting was happening there. But still, I liked it actually. So in 1996 was, no, 19, yeah, 1966 or so, my wife and I started to emigrate from the United States, from Holland to the United States, and got a job in a geophysical fluid dynamics laboratory where I did experiments for this big computer, the biggest computer they could get there, to predict weather and to understand the climate. I was myself more interested in observations. So I used the radio sound network, which is over about now 500, 2,000 stations around the world, which used for aircraft. They used weather balloons, and those were collected, and then we worked with them. Actually, it's a big. That was actually started at MIT, but we continued then when I was working in GFDL, the short name for Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory. It was a very nice group because we were very free to do what we thought we should do. And the director left us free. He was very concerned about getting the best people he could get. So you got a lot of Japanese people came there, and they did actually many of the experiments. But it was a very good group, very or concentrating on doing research there. So I worked there for about 30 years actually there. And but then at a certain point, I thought we would do something else. I wasn't really completely satisfied with usually so with statistics, and more getting into something else, more into completely stopped physics for a while. And actually for the next 20 years, I worked in more studying other fields like Oriental medicine, the diagnosis, using the meridians, the body, and worked on shiatsu, which is body work. So worked with people more. So that was actually a nice period. So it was about 20 years I worked with there, with that, and on the Kushi Institute, which is Institute for Macrobiotic Studies in Beckett, Massachusetts, and worked there for 20 years also. And they sent me out also to go to Japan to teach their shiatsu, which was very strange because it came from Japan originally, but now but this was a more new way of looking at the cells, which was actually developed in the United States. And also doing art, so I worked in sculpture and such things, so completely new. but then the last about 10 years or so, I've been changing in a sense, coming back to climate. At the end of when I was ending my life at NOAA, then I didn't see a solution for the climate problem. It seemed like things were not getting any better. It was just getting worse, and I didn't see any way to solve whatever could be solved. So I got actually through Lisa Burke. She knew Silas Rao in the climate healers. So they introduced us to each other, and that was sort of helped me. He showed me that it was very important to become vegan. We already were doing partially that in our macrobiotic studies, that we already know meat, but he thought that actually dairy products is maybe even more important than the meat eating, and so we have been working on that the last 10 years and seeing more a possible solution to what climate change is going on, the global warming. So there's more hope, I think, in that sense. Although we don't go in the right direction yet, but it may happen. And it's still open. And Salazar is very optimistic, 2026. But we hope that will happen. And but we need sort of a little bit of revolution, I guess, to change things around, to get people more to. So it became much more interesting in a way, and also what came also more clear, the fact that they have abusing the animals so long already, and it was a mutual. They work together, I guess, domesticated animals, but it's they were not free. And, and I think that's probably the major problem, I think, in the ethical issue also. They became more and more concerned about that maybe more and more to climate change to get this original sin that they started to domesticate the wild nature. You have to sort of rewilding now, which I think is the topic of the next conference.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we talk too much time. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. There's so many things I could ask you about the body work, the Japanese work that you did, that probably helped with getting mind, body, and spirit together. And maybe that had something to do also within your journey when Lisa did introduce you to this. You were probably very open to listening.
Definitely, yeah. It is more about the Oriental. That medicine is more closer than the Western medicine on nature. See, the heart is sort of especially the fire element, and the lungs are more like and the large intestine come together. They work more on the environment, close with the environment. You see everything as part of nature, that everything in the body is also nature. We are connected, interconnected. And so that has helped very much, I think, in it. And then the next phase, which my wife also has helped in, was going to have contact with Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist Zen master who passed away 3 years ago. But he's was a wonderful person. Yeah, so open and very translated Oriental religion into more Western terms. He could very, very simple, but very deep in the sense that you just have to breathe and you have to eat. And so it's very connected, I think, with what Salas Rao wants to do, actually, and to more on what we do every day. That is, I think, the hopeful sign also that as an individual we should change. It's not the government that can do much, but it can do much, but still the individual is the one who has to do it, to change the way how you live. less of the things which we don't need, and just be more simple and
Right.
easy the
Yeah,
way.
simple living.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Living. And yeah, you're right. The climate healers say we must, what is it? It's not change ourselves to change the world. Um, Now I've forgotten the exact slogan, but it's the same sort of thing. We have to take care of ourselves individually
Yes.
and not expect everyone else to. It doesn't mean that we can't educate and talk to, but
Mhm.
those very simple choices we make. And
Uh,
wow. And so it's very much coincides with the physics of the climate then about
mhm.
what we do, how that can affect the climate.
Right. Yeah, this Thich Nhat Hanh calls that interbeing,
Mhm.
but everything is so interconnected that if we are alive because of the sun and what happens in the universe and what we eat and how we interact with people. If some of those elements are taken out, then we won't survive, we won't live anymore. It's all interconnected. So we need this to make the joint, and that's very close to how the climate, what we learned. So it works very beautiful, actually.
Oh, yeah. I remember now it's heal ourselves, heal the earth. That is their slogan. Heal ourselves, heal the earth. And
Right.
at the convergence, you're going to be talking more about that connection
Mhm.
because it's really hard for a person to see that what choice if I choose this to buy or that to buy, how is that going to affect the climate? It doesn't really make sense to somebody, to many people. And you're
Mhm.
going to talk a little bit about that, or would you like to talk about that here?
Yeah. No, I think it's that's sort of crucial. I think the fact that we are generated, Earth generated us, I think for a purpose, so
Oh,
that we have a role to play in there. And we haven't done a very good job so far in ruining much of the earth, but we have done a lot of positive things, like society built up, and we have to make comfortable life for ourselves, but we have now to make it also comfortable for animals, also and other people. So
yeah,
try to restore the earth. And I think we have developed all our science and technology. Uh, there's enough food around, but isn't distributed well. There's enough minerals, everything we have enough, but we have used too much. So we have to see that we are limited, that we have to take our role in the whole and not think we are the masters of nature. And that is, so I think and then the individual is important, I think, in there, that we are part of it. If you take care of yourself, that will take care of the world also in the right way. But you have to use your brains and your compassion to develop that.
right,
So,
right. It's not just for the taking. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean just taking and taking. It means then giving, doesn't it?
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. And then in a community, we have to do it together. We can't do it by ourselves also. But so it's hopeful, I think. I think there's a possibility. Well, no guarantee. But so civilization will go down also and will get underdeveloped, won't continue. But the way how we do it, we can live a lot longer and be well, actually, have a comfortable, good life,
Yeah.
also for children and grandchildren. I think so. Yeah. Mm.
Yes, we do have to think about the children and the grandchildren.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And, and some people think of 7 generations ahead and behind, and we're not. Well, we are trying to think of the 7 generations ahead of us.
Yeah, that's very, very wonderful. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very interesting that how little we know about the previous generations. Uh, because we have only know yearly our grandparents may have met, but over grandparents we usually haven't. Nobody has seen it, so it's only very short term we have watched so far. So I mean, but now it's interesting how. But we have learned so much from science. I think science is a beautiful way of working. And
Yes.
yeah, we have to learn ourselves. Yeah, yeah.
One of the things science has done is connected us because I live here in Texas, you live up north, and people around the world are being able to be connected to understand the science and to understand what's going on with climate change.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And all the people who go really deep into the science, they see that they have struck by awe how things are working. It's so miraculous in a sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's how you interpret it as a god or as an as a nature or whatever it is, but it's something very special.
Mhm.
And the real mysteries are still there and they're not being resolved.
Right.
And the fact of how you get born and where you go after your death and what happens, reincarnation or not. It's
Right.
so it's a whole science is only limited in that sense.
Right.
What you can do. It's more than that, I think.
Well, we have plenty of opportunities. At least, at least some of us do, and that's why we want to share more so that other people have these opportunities for the awe of the animals, the awe of the uh, abundance of food that we have, but
Mm-hmm.
it's being, kept away from some people who don't have access to it. And I was so pleased when we to find out that we do have plenty of food. We just have to have the right mindset for distributing it, for working together so that we have
Mm-hmm.
these opportunities together. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, yeah, right. No, that's very, very true. Yeah. I yeah. Yeah, I'm taking a course nowadays, and there's in our program, we have a program that's called OSHA, where and I have a teacher who worked on soil for 30, 40 years, was teaching that. But he's talking now about climate. It's connected also with how it started, the agricultural revolution after the last ice age, that we have agricultural revolution was the one which started things around, so that we started to cut trees and domesticate animals, wild animals, and that since that time we have affected the earth more and more. But um, but and that's something which Shailesh Rao is emphasizing now, the fact that we have for a long, long time already affected the earth by the carbon dioxide, by cutting down trees. And that's not only the industrial revolution, which was much shorter, 2,000 years, but the fossil fuels are an important part, but the other part is still going on and it's getting worse and worse. Fossil fuels, if you stop that, it doesn't solve the climate problem, the global warming, unfortunately. So, and that's what we are concentrating on. So we have to follow more going back, liberate the animals more and by eating how we eat.
Mm.
And get so that and planting trees on the land which is now being used for animals. Uh, so there's a long history we have to go back to actually to see the whole, to find a solution more. We have to work together, I think.
Yes.
Work together with the people who are now working only on solar energy, which is fine, but it doesn't solve the major problems we have. So we have to go more into becoming more vegan, and thereby cut replenishing the trees on the world. Because 12,000 years ago when we started, the earth was very different. It was more green and more white, of course, with the snow. But so we had to make it more greening, more the earth, in a sense, planting trees and creating more wild animals. And still, that can be done even without civilization and keep it going. So it's a future, but there's a lot of hard work has to be done in cleaning up.
A lot of cleaning up, that is true. I'm wondering, I know that scientists like to stay in their little nook of what they're studying. That's how they get expert in it. But for them to understand the connection to the climate right now, you're right. The United Nations COP focuses on fossil fuels, and most other groups focus
Yes.
on the fossil fuels. And I wonder if that's one of the things you're going to talk about at the convergence, or if you'd like to say a few words about how we can get scientists to look, like you said, a little further back in history.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, the many of the people in the science, I think, have not been too open to see that we can affect the system as individuals. Um, that's something I got something from getting out of science was very helpful. So that you can see from outside a little bit what the science is about. Um, uh, so I think it's very important that you can see that as individual, you can affect the whole system. It's like the butterfly effect, which you have all heard about. Well, Adam Rance did, but one butterfly will can affect the whole system in a certain way, changing the atmosphere prediction. So um, so we have to create more and that more hope in a sense also, and getting people that they can do something that is very significant. And by just doing the best we can. Um, it's it's such a huge problem that it's hard to oversee that can happen. But I still believe that miracles do happen. It can be done.
Right, right. Tipping points happen. So this, some tipping point of understanding
Yes.
can happen.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we don't know what the climate will, what the atmosphere and the Earth will do. It will survive, maybe in a way we wouldn't like it to survive. But what I'm, yeah, we can try to do our best, and doing less resources, and be more simple life.
Yes. Wow. This has been beautiful. Uh, I wonder if you have any final words you'd like to say. I'm so grateful for you being here today, taking this time to talk with me and so that we can share this information.
Yeah, no, I think something which Thich Nhat Hanh also says about gratitude It's very important. Gratitude of what we have. If you look outside and just see, it's so beautiful. If you look at nature, it's quite nourishing. It's maybe different from what it used to be, but still, it's beautiful because nature will give it solution. So I guess we have to have hope and trust and be grateful for what we have. The gratitude and compassion with other people who are less fortunate than we have. We are now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful for you.
Thank you, BJ. It was wonderful to talk with you and
Yeah,
give me
and
the
we'll
opportunity
see.
to talk.
Great. And we'll see you at VCOP 25.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, now you don't have to leave yet. I just,
Okay.
I was
Good.
just saying that's the cutoff. Now he's going to cut the film there.
Okay.
And so we can still talk a little bit if you'd like. I just want to tell you that is what you said was so beautiful.
Mhm.
I just feel almost to tears because
It's maybe a little too fast, but it's sometimes hard to make it all logical in a sense.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
love the fact that everything is so coherent. And so that's what I learned in meteorology, that you need uh, so much information you need. Um, um, and still, it's quite simple because, for example, we have in our area, we used to have Donello Meadows. You probably have heard of her, Donello Meadows.
No, I don't think so.
She was an she was like Silash, very general person who could understand many different fields. She was in economics and in science, and she worked actually in Vermont. She was active in creating these books on the about the Council of Rome. Maybe I've heard about the
Oh,
book
yes.
where he predicted what would happen. And it was a very simple model, but he had modeling both the science and economics and different ways. So, but the predictions were, unfortunately, they were right.
Oh,
They predicted that what would happen, and it's almost the same happened. What was there?
wow.
Uh, it was very interesting. They started also here in where we live now is in community. She started a prototype where you have both animals and they call it I have to see what it was again. The Cobb Hill. Cobb Hill is sort of called very well known now. So she wants us to apply it in nature, how you can do it actually by doing, giving a good life, community style life. She passed away, unfortunately, in very early age. And I think she was in the 60s or so. But she had also contact, interesting, with my boss in Princeton.
Oh,
He was the one who was very detailed and looking at all these models with a very complex, the biggest computer available they used there. But the results were very similar actually to what the simple model gave. But he thought he didn't want to work with her because he said it's much too simple. You have
yeah.
to do it much more accurately. But still, we find out that there are now models which hard to include all the different models,
Right.
the factors there and there. So, and I think there's much more the biology is much more important than in the model so far, because we are part of the biology, but also it's how the trees and all interact, the Amazon forest, that they have their own system to develop. So it's much more complex than we're thinking it. So there's a lot we can do. It turns out the models that are trying to do the best, but I think there's some things which I don't go over. Is much stronger apparently effects now when the model predict to get much more warming. I read the newspaper. I don't know if it's true, but there's much more warming than the prediction was, even with those complex models.
Wow.
It is now getting worse in a sense. But
Right. It is an emergency.
yes, mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
Let's see.
So, but that's maybe that's what we need. We
Yeah.
need the emergency that's for the things to change. But
Open our
yeah,
right.
so